All right. So here we are doing FreeCodeCamp Legacy Python for everybody. Conditional execution. Just a video on this one, no exercises. All right, so let's do it.
Hello and welcome to Chapter 3.
That's a lot of static noise. I'm going to turn down the audio on mine a little bit. Dang, it was already low.
The conditional execution. In conditional execution, we meet the if statement. The if statement is where Python can go one way or another way, and it's the beginning of sort of our way of making Python make.
So I don't want to say annoying, but that little white noise in the background, that I'm going to have to edit that out of here. Maybe you won't hear it in the video, but it's there for me.
Decisions for us. Sequential code, we just do some things. Sometimes that's useful, but now we can have our code check something and then make a decision based on.
All right. Let's start off. First things first. Let's slap this in the corner. Boom, right there. Now let's type in conditional execution, chapter 3. Let's see. Here's chapter 1. All right, so let's do it like that. Chapter 3. Conditional execution. All right. Let's see what we got going
on that thing. So the conditional steps in Python are pretty straightforward.
Okay. If you don't know about conditional statements like if statements and whatnot, here's how it goes. So we've got x equals 5. Is x less than or equal to 10? If yes, we're going to print smaller, right? So if x, so we've got x is the variable, it's equals 5. If x is less than 10, we'll print smaller, all right? If x is bigger than 20, we're going to print bigger. So it's not bigger, it's smaller, right? So we're going to print out smaller, all right? And then after this if statement's done, and after this if statement's done, we're going to type fini like that, right? So that's basically how that works. So here's this little diagram. X equals 5. Is it greater than 10? If yes, print smaller. If no, keep going down. Keep going down if it's no or if it's yes, regardless. Is X greater than 20? No, it isn't. Go down to the next thing. If it is greater, then print bigger, okay? And then print fini if not either. So hopefully you get what that means. He'll tell us more.
The keyword that we're going to use is the if statement. And so if is a reserved word. And the if statement has as part of it a question that it asks. And this is asking if x is less than 10. And the colon is the end of the if statement. And then we begin an indented block of text. And the way this works in this particular thing is this line is the conditional line. If the question is true, the line executes. And if the question is false, the line is skipped. And you can think of it the way this is, right? X is 5, ask a question. Is it 10 or not? These questions do not harm the value of x. If it is, then we run this code, and then we sort of rejoin here, and then we test this next if. And if that's true, we do this code, and then we do there. But in this case, it's going to be false because x is not less than 20, and so it just continues down here. So if we look at how this works, it runs this line, then it sees this question, it skips that line. So this line does not run, and so smaller prints out and fini prints out. Okay? And so that's the basic idea of an if statement. And the indentation, when we are done with an if statement, we de-indent back, and there's this little block. This is one sort of if statement, and this is another if statement. And these are the two conditional lines that either run or they...
Where'd that static go? Where'd it go? It's so distracting. Whatever. It's free.
Don't run, depending on the question, the answer to that question. So we have a number of different comparisons.
All right. So let's write this down. I don't think we need to write this down because it doesn't really tell us much. It's just like kind of like watching a video. I mean, it is, but you know what I'm saying. Hopefully you know. Anyway, whatever. Let's write this down. Let's get out the old notepad and let's start off with comparison operators, right? So let's say, what are we going to say? No, not like that. Let's just do like this. Comparison operators, all right? And let's come down here and let's say the first thing, Boolean expressions. All right. So if you've never heard of this stupid looking word before, it's a real thing. Boolean expressions. All right. What they do is they ask a question and produce a true or false. Let's not say yes or no. True or false result, which we use to control program flow, right? So yeah, Boolean is just either true or false, right? And then the Boolean expressions is just something that asks, is this true or is this false, all right? Let's go to the next one that they're repeating for whatever reason. Boolean expressions using comparison operators evaluate to true, false, or yes, no. All right. Basically the same thing. So whenever it says yes or no, yes is true, no is false, no matter what. Comparison operators look at variables but do not change the variables. All right. So there we go. So let's do this thing right here while we're at it. What should we call this? Operators. Let's say operators. All right, let's go Python, tab, and let's say meaning. All right, so this right here, the left-facing angle bracket means less than. All right, the left-facing angle bracket with an equal sign is less than or equal to. All right, then we've got double equals, which is equal to. All right, we've got right-facing angle bracket with the equal sign. I don't know why we're doing it like this. And then we'll say greater than or equal, greater than or equal. Then we've got the regular like this, the regular right-facing angle bracket. We'll call this greater than. And then we've got this right here, which is not equal, right? So basically you're saying not equal, and that's going to be not equal, right? So like, let's say we want to say, is 5 less than 3? No, that'll be false. Is 3 less than or equal to 3? Yes, it is equal to 3. Is bat equal to cat? No, it's not. That's going to be false. Is 100 greater than or equal to 2? Yes, it's true. It is greater than or equal to, right? So that's basically it. These are just ways to ask the question, is this less than or this, then that. So there's going to be something on this side and there's something on this side, and these are what we say in the middle of it. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's oh, don't forget this. Let's go down here and say star. Remember, the equal sign by itself is used for assignment. Is that it? Yeah, that looks good. Assignment. All right. So let's listen to Dr. Chuck go over.
And operators that we can use to ask these true-false questions that say, is this true? So again, we're kind of limited to the keys that were on computer keyboards in 1940s and 1950s, less than or equal to. So we didn't have fancy math characters, so we just concatenated less than and equal to be less than or equal to. This double equals is the asking, is this equal to? And so that's a little tricky. The equal sign is that assignment operator.
Yeah, that's what he's saying here. Let me pull up the notes. That's what he's trying to say. This here, double equals, is part of the comparison operators, but the regular equal sign is only used for assignment, like x equals 2, right? But if we see double equals, and that's how I always say it, we'll be like 1 double equals 2. No, it does not equal 2. 1 does not equal 2, right? So that would be false. Something like that. Let's listen to Dr. C.
Today from scratch, I would probably make assignment be arrow and the equals question to have an equals. Or I might say somewhere I would say question equals. But I'm not building this language, so it's not up to me. So this is the question. Double equals is asking the question is equal to. Greater than or equal, greater than, and not equal. So this is the exclamation point is sort of like not equal. So that's sort of not equal. So that's how we do not equal. So if we take a look at some of these in some examples.
All right, let's look at this. So this is 5 equals 5. All right. So this right here is going to be the assignment operator, was assigning 5 to x. All right. If x double equals 5, and that's how I always say it. If x double equals 5, we're going to print equals 5. Okay. So since x does equal 5, this is this 5, and this is the question. Does this equal 5? It does. And then we print equals 5, right? If x is greater than 4, we're going to print greater than 4. So x, which is 5, is greater than 4, which means it's greater than 4, and we print it. We print it right here. If x is greater than or equal to 5, we're going to print greater than or equal to 5, right? And so because x is 5, it is equal to x is greater than or equal to 5, right? And then here we've got this. If x is less than 6, we're going to print less than 6, okay? And so that's what we do here. We say, what do we do? That one's throwing me off a little bit, whatever. Yeah, so the 5 is the x, this x is definitely less than 6, so we're going to print less than 6. If x is less than or equal to 5, we're going to print less than or equal to 5, right? So x is 5, it's still less than or equal to 5, right? But if we put like here, x is less than 5, it's not less than, because 5 is not less than 5, right? Of course. And then x does not equal 6, print not equal 6, and so that's what it is. So since x is 5, it clearly doesn't equal 6, and it doesn't equal 6. Boom, that's what he's going to say right now.
All of these are going to be true because of the way x is set. If x is equal to 5, that's the question version. That's true or false. It'll execute that. If x is greater than 4, it's going to execute that. If x is greater than or equal to 5, it's going to execute that. Here's kind of a shorthand where if there's only one line in this block, you can kind of pull it up right on the same line after the equals.
True.
If x is less than 6, which it is, true, execute that. Then if x is less than or equal to 5, do that. And if x is not equal to 6, do that. Now, like I said, all these questions have been carefully constructed so that they're true. Just to kind of show you the syntax
so careful.
Of those comparison operators.
All right, let's see what this is talking about.
You don't just have to have a single...
one-way decision. Let's see what this is talking about. This looks different. So x equals 5, right? Print before 5. So we're already printing before 5. And we're saying if x is equal to 5, if x double equals 5, we're going to print is 5. And then I guess we'll print it again, is still 5. And then print third 5. Okay, so for some reason we're printing this 3 times in a row. I don't know why. Print afterwards 5. So yeah, we're printing this. Print before 6. Okay, there we go. If I bet it's because they love saying 666. I guarantee it. It's what these nerds love. These nerds love it. They love it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. They love it. They love it. So print before 6. Before 6. If x equals 6, then the same thing like we did up here for no reason. And then print afterwards 6. Okay. So this is not if x equals 6. It does so none of these are going to run because x does not equal 6. Of course, we didn't add 1 to it. I don't know why we're bothering with this, but it is what it is. So yeah, these are all going to get printed because x equals 5, and this will get printed. This will not get printed. None of this stuff will get printed, and this will get printed. So before 6, afterwards 6 will get printed. Whatever. Okay. Let's
a line of text in the indented block. And this will be something you're going to get used to. So if we indent more than one line, then the conditional code is actually these 3 lines. So the idea is you have an if statement, you come in, you do an indent, and as long as you stay indented, you stay in that if block. If it's false, it just skips all of those. So the way this is going to execute, x is 5, print before 5, is x equal 5? That's the question mark, and that's true. So it's going to run all these, and then come back, and then continue on, and then de-indent. So all this stuff is running, right? And then it says x equals 6. Well, that was false, so that skips all of them. So none of these lines of code run. So these actually don't run, and it says afterwards 6. So that's a mistake. Those don't run right there. Okay, because x is not equal 6.
See, what did I say? They just had to throw it in there just because it's part of their nerdliness. They just like, oh, I hate religion, yet I'm going to use every symbol that they say is bad. Bro, you got other things to do today?
Okay. So
anyway,
indentation
let's type these down. These people, they drive me crazy. Just how ridiculous it is. Like, is it worth wasting your entire life? Like, oh, I'm gonna get back at these guys that didn't do anything or judged me. Well, boo-hoo. Whatever. Indentation. Indentation. All right. Increase. Indent. Indent after an if statement. Or for statement. After what? I'll explain it. So yeah, okay, yeah. So there's going to be an indentation after if statements and after for statements as well. Okay, we'll get into what for loops are later. Let's do the next one. Maintain indent to indicate the scope of the block, which lines are affected by the if or the for. All right. So yeah, the block of code is just talking about like, let's push it back. 1, 2, 3, quiet. So like this would be the code block right here. This would be the if statement, the if block right here, this stuff right here. And then this is the if block right here. Okay, let's go forward. 1, 2, 3. Let's finish typing this stuff up. So let's go to the next part. Reduce indent. Reduce indent back to the level of the if statement or for statement to indicate the end of the block. And yes, so just like, let's go back to 1, 2. Just like here, this is the end right here. When you bring the indentation back this way, that means that's the end of this block right here. And it can get real complicated, and we'll definitely see some complicated stuff. But that's good for now. Let's see what the next thing says. Blank lines are ignored. Yes. Blank lines are ignored. They do not affect indentation. Right? So like there's like lines in between these things, which it's not like that here, but 1, 2. Actually, it's not anywhere. But if there was like a line in between this print and this print, it wouldn't matter. If there was a line in between this if and this print right here, it wouldn't matter. It would all basically still keep going together as long as these indentations are here. All right, so let's see what else he's talking about. So let me get this. We've got comments down here. Comments comments on a line by themselves are ignored with regard to indentation, right? So if there's a comment on the line, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's just saying that it doesn't mean anything when it comes to indentation, right? Whatever. Let's see what he really says, though.
Part of Python. We use indentation in lots of programming languages, often to kind of demarcate blocks to show where blocks start and stop. But in Python, it's syntactically correct. You can make an error if your indentation is wrong. After an F, you must indent. And you maintain the indent as long as you want to be in that same if block. And then when you're done with the if block, you reduce the indent. In this rule of indenting, comment lines and blank lines are completely ignored. So we're going to...
All right, let's do this part. So, warning, turn off tabs. I wonder what that means. Turn off tabs. All right. So Atom, which we're not using, maybe you are, automatically uses spaces for files with the PY extension. I guess that's nice. Oh, okay. Most text editors can turn tabs into spaces. We're going to make sure to enable this feature. All right. We don't use either of those. Well, we can write this down. Nah, I don't use either of those, so it doesn't matter to me. If you want to write that stuff down, you can. But this Notepad++ and Text Wrangler, I use you know what I use, VS Code. So Python cares a lot. Lot about how far a line is indented. If we mix tabs and spaces, we may get indentation errors, even if everything looks fine. Okay, let's see.
I'm going to tend to put 4 spaces. 4 spaces ends up being the normal thing that we do in the C all the code that I write. Has 4 spaces for each indent. If I go in twice, I use 8 spaces. And we have this instinct of wanting to hit the tab key to move in 4 spaces. Now, the problem is that it might look the same on your screen. A tab and 4 spaces might line up the same place depending on how tabs are set. But Python can get confused by that. So we tend to avoid using actual tabs in files. And so most programming text editors, like if you're using Notepad or Text Wrangler, there's a place to set the tabs to say, don't put tabs in this document, but every time you hit a tab, move over 4 spaces. And so you hit a tab, but it's like space, 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 space. Now, the nice thing about Atom, and this is the text editor we tend to recommend in this class, because it works on Windows, Linux, and Mac, but also because it automatically sets this up. As soon as you save your file with a .py extension, you can sort of hit the tab key with impunity, and everything works perfectly. But the key thing here is that Python insists that you get this right, and if you don't get this right, you're going to get indentation errors, and they're just another syntax error. So if you're using something like Text Wrangler or Notepad,
we aren't.
Hunt around in the preferences, and you'll find something about expanding tabs, or maybe how many spaces each tab stop is supposed to be. And so you check these, and what this really is doing is telling your text editor, never put an actual tab in the document.
Okay, if we have this problem with VS Code, we will go search it out. But since he's not talking about, the most popular one for newbies, I mean, Who knows? But this was also made in what, like 2016, 2019? Who knows? Didn't it say 2016 in one of these? Whatever. So if we have this problem in VS Code, we'll fix it. We know we can go find it. We'll ask ChatGPT. Let's go.
Document, but somehow simulate caps dots using spaces. And so here is a bit of code. It's got a nested block, but it gives you the sense that.
All right, let's see what this is. So increase, maintain, after, if, or for block. Okay. Decrease to indicate into block. Okay, so yeah, here's 5. Okay, x equals 5. If x is greater than 2, we'll print this. So this is this indent means it's part of this if. Okay, when we bring it back, this is not part of the if, so this is going to run no matter what. We got a 4 right here. Everything from here to here is part of the 4. This is an if, and this indents for this if right here. Okay, so there's a if statement inside of this for loop. We'll get to that later. So this indents, then it comes back here. So it prints this. It does this if I is greater than 2. It'll do this, and then it'll print done with I, whatever, right? And then print all done. So we'll get into what this means, but that's just how the indents work.
You have to be very explicit when you're reading Python code of whether the indent is the same, between two lines the same, increased or decreased. And so every time you increase it, you mean something, and every time you decrease it, you mean something, and literally if it stays the same, you mean something as well. And so if we take a look at this, here we have a line, and the next line has the same indent. This is an if with a colon at the end, so we have to increase the indent, and now we're maintaining it. Okay, so these two lines are part of that if, but now we have de-indented. So whether you choose to de-indent this word or whatever, where you do this de-indent affects the scope of how far this if statement lasts, right? It lasts up to, but not including, the line that's de-indented to the same level as the if. Okay, so this is a de-indent.
Yeah, they're saying a lot of words for something that's really actually very simple. So if you're like one of those overthinker kind of people, just don't worry about it. This is real easy, just like walking. We'll get through this soon enough.
Line, which doesn't matter, and we maintain it. And we have a for, which we'll learn about in the next chapter, which is a looping structure. Let's do a for runs this 5 times. It has a colon, and it also expects an indented block. Now we have what's called a nested block, where we have an if and a colon. We go in some more. So this is like 2 indents, right? So these are 1 indent, and these are 2 indents. And so this is a block within a block. And then we de-indent. So that means this print is not part of the if statement, but is still part of the for statement. And then we de-indent again, and then that means this print is on the same level as that for statement. So if you start thinking about this, you want to be able to start thinking that these blocks are the start of the block with the colon line up to but not including this line that's been de-indented. So the for goes this far, right? The for goes up to, but not including the line that's de-indented. The if goes up to, but not including the line that's de-indented. So as you do this, you'll sort of mentally start drawing these blocks. And pretty soon, you will start constructing them as blocks. And it takes a while, but doesn't take forever. But in Python, unlike other languages, you have this is very important, and it matters, and you can have syntax errors if you get it wrong, because you're really communicating the shape.
So yeah, let's look at this. So yeah, this is the actual block. This is the if block, right? This is the for block. This yellow, everything inside this yellow is the for block. And then we've got another if block inside of the for block. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And then these things are all on the global level right here. We'll talk about global 2 as well at some point.
And structure of your code using these indents and de-indents.
All right, let's look at this. Nested decisions. So we've got x equaling 42. If x is greater than 1, we're going to print more than 1, okay? We've got another if inside of this. If x is less than 100, we're going to print less than 100. And regardless of anything, we're going to press all done, okay? So basically it's asking us, if is x greater than 1? Yes, it is more than 1. Is X less than 100? Yes, it's also less than 100. So it'll print less than 100 as well. So more than one less than 100, and then all done will get printed as well, right? And this is how this thing works. Very complicated looking, but whatever. Is X greater than 1? No, just print all done. But it is greater than 1, so we're going to keep going. Print more than 1. Is X greater than 100? No. Pardon me, less than 100. No, but it is actually, so we're going to print less than 100. It's really, this stuff is really too much, honestly. It's really just some easy questions. If this is this, do this. Inside of this, while inside of this, if this is this, do this. All right, that's all that's saying.
We already saw a nested indent. This is a nested if. So you can put an if within an if, and you can go as far deep as you want to go, like Russian dolls. And so here we have X equals 42. If it's 1, we indent 1. And then with this next thing we do, these are at the same level of indent, but now we see an if, and it has to indent further. So this is like 2 in, 8 spaces, and then we de-indent back. Actually, we de-indent back 2. And so if you watch this and you take a look at how this works, it runs to here. Oops. Back up. Comes in here. The answer is yes, X is greater than 1. Prints this. Is X less than 100? Well, it's 42, so the answer is yes. So it runs this, and then it kind of continues back to there.
Yeah.
And you can also think of drawing boxes around this. This is one if box, and then within that if box, there is another if box. And again, it's the indent block up to, but not including where the de-indent happens. And this here is like 2 backwards de-indents. So it ends 2 blocks. So 2 blocks are ended by where we place this. We could move this in, or we could move this out. We could have it all the way into here. We could have it to here or here.
True. Let's just think of it like this. If it's on this first level, these are the global scopes, okay? That's what he's basically saying. This is global, this is global, this is global as well, right? And then these are more local scopes right here. So this stuff will be the local scope for this X, and then this will be the even more local scope for this, for this if, and then this is going to be the even more local scope for this if, all right? Something like that will get, trust me, it's a lot easier than all the explaining they do.
Where we put that line depends on how the ends of these blocks are going to work out. So one form...
All right, let's type this out. Where are we? 32 minutes. Come on. Isn't it like a 13-minute video? All right, let's do it. Okay, so let's do this. 2-way decisions. All right. Sometimes we want to do one thing if a logical expression is true, and something else if the expression is false. Okay? And then we've got this next part which says it is like a fork in the road. We must choose one or the other path, but not both. All right? So like one of those or this or that's. Anyway, so so X equals 4 right here. Yes. Is X greater than 2? Yes, it is. Print bigger. If X is not greater than 2, we're going to print not bigger, right? And then no matter what's going on, we're going to say all done. So is X greater than 2? Print bigger, else not bigger. Just that easy. I mean, it's really that easy. Let's keep going.
That's a 1 branch if that we just saw, but then you can also have what's called a 2 branch if. And the basic idea of a 2 branch if is that you're going to come in, you're going to ask a question, and you're going to go one direction if it's yes, and another direction if it's no. We call this an if then else. It's kind of like a fork in the road. And the way to think about it is, depending on the output of this question, we're going to pick 1 or 2 of these, but if we pick one, the other one's never going to happen. So it's like an either or.
True.
We're either going to go one way, or we're going to go the other way, but there is no path where we somehow go boot through both of them. That doesn't happen. And the syntax that we use for this is what we call the...
All right, let's look at this. So yeah, This is he's going to be talking about the else statements here. So we've got x equals 4, right? And this is the code we're writing, and this is the what's I don't know going on in his mind. So x equals 4. If x is greater than 2, print bigger. Else, print smaller. So if this is true, we're going to do this. If it's false, we're going to do this, and then we'll print all done, and we're done. Right? That's all it is.
If then else, and so the first part is normal if with an indent, and then we de-indent, and then this is another reserved word, else, with a colon, and then we re-indent. And so this is really end up being part of a whole block here, and the else is the part, this is the part that runs if it's false, and this is the part that runs if it's true. The first branch of the if, the first indented block is what runs if it's true, and the second indented block is the one that runs if it's false. And so here we go, just if x is greater than 2, in this case it's yes, we're going to print bigger, and then we're going to be all done. And so we do 1, and so this one did run, and this one did not run. So basically with an if then else, one of the two branches is going to run, but there's no case in which both branches run. And again, you sort of draw these blocks around these things mentally, and in this one you sort of take from the if, not the else is really part of the block, up to but not including that print, which is back indented, de-indented back to the same level as the if statement.
All right.
The if,
I don't know what he just said.
Not the else is really part of the block, up to but not including.
Okay, so all he's saying here is that this else is part of the if block, all right? So if there's an if block like this, the else is part of it, and then once we get out of this, it goes back to global, all right? So this is the if statement is global, everything inside it, but this is all local right here, and then this is global again, something like that. Let's keep going.
That print, which is back indented, de-indented back to the same level as the if statement. Okay? This Python is actually one of the more elegant languages, even though after a while this indenting and when you get too far in, it gets a little bit complex. But this is a good way to visualize this with these indents. Coming up next, we're going to talk about some more complex conditional structures.
Awesome. Okay, great. So there's that. So which code is indented correctly to print yes if x is 0 and y equals 10, right? So if x equals 0, yes. Okay, so I like this one. And if x, so if x double equals, no, the x needs to be first on this one. If 0 equals x, I don't know why these are backwards, but I guess it's what they want to do. So it's probably this one. Okay, so if x is 0, if 0 equals x, and if y equals 10, we're going to print yes. Okay, so this goes through. It says, is it 0? Yes, it is 0. So that means we can go to the next thing. Is y equal to 10? Yes, it is. So both of these are true. So now we're going to print yes. Let's check this one. Maybe I'm wrong. Ah, there we go. And submit it. All right. So now we're on to more conditional structures, and we'll see you next time.